Hello and welcome to Code FP Academy. And this is the fourth and final module in the generative AI course. And in this module, we would be looking at ethics, productivity, and career use. So the first lesson in this module would be on ethics and responsible use of AI. At the end of this lesson, we should be able to understand the major ethical risk associated with AI, identify real-world examples of misuse, apply responsible practices when using AI tools, and think critically about the impact of AI on society. Now, let's ask ourselves this question. Why does ethics in AI matter? We all know, and throughout this lesson, we've seen that AI is very powerful. It can write, design, speak, and even make decisions. But here is a very important and key issue. AI does not know what is right or wrong like we humans do. All the outputs that we get from the AI are based on patterns. So this means that the AI can produce harmful, biased, or misleading content, or it can be misused intentionally or unintentionally. And we should know that the output that we get from the AI is not the responsibility of the AI, or that responsibility is not on the AI. It is on the user. Why am I saying this? This is because the AI is an assistant. And before we get any output from the AI, we would have to prompt it. So depending on what we ask the AI to do, it can help us that would produce something that is either harmful or biased or something that is good. So the next thing to look at is bias in AI. So when we talk about bias happens when the system produces unfair or unbalanced results because of the data it was trained on. We should know that AI learns from existing data. So if the data that was used to train the AI contain bias, the AI will repeat that bias or even amplify it. So let me break it down into this simple analogy. So let's say we are teaching students only one perspective. So we are guiding the student that this is the only way to go. And when we teach the student that this is the only way to go, that is the only way that the students would know. So that's how the AI would also work. So if the data that was used to train the AI contains bias, the outputs would also contain bias. So here are some examples of bias that we can talk about. Number one is job recruitment systems. And some AI tools used for hiring may favor certain genders and also prefer candidates from specific backgrounds. Why does this happen? Because based on the historical hiring data that may be used to train this AI would be biased or contain some of these biases. So if the AI is allowed to do the recruitment without the oversight of a human, we can get such bias from here. For image generation too, we can see that some AI struggle to represent diverse skin tones and also associate certain jobs with specific groups. So that's why whilst when we were looking at image generation, we talked about effective prompting. So if we give the AI a vague prompt, it can also give us a generic one or something that it thinks is the right one. Meanwhile, it is biased in this sense. You get it. And for language models, they may reinforce stereotypes and sometimes they may use insensitive or culturally insensitive language. So let's look at why bias is very, very dangerous. So it's dangerous because it leads to unfair treatment, just like we explained for the jobs, reinforces existing inequalities. Right now, we are preaching gender equality, and still, especially the tech world, is heavily dominated by males. So if we allow the AI to, for example, if there is a tech job advert and the AI is the one doing the recruitment, you can see there might be some bias in there. And it also affects real decisions. So, how do we reduce the bias? The first one is we should always question AI outputs, cross check with other sources, use diverse prompts, and we can also ask the question that is this fair or is this balanced? Now, second thing or the next thing to look at is copyright and ownership. And this is one key question that we should always ask ourselves. So, who really owns AI generated content? There isn't any single or definite answer for this. So, the ownership will depend on the platform that you use. For example, if you generate images with Gemini, you can see the Gemini tag over there. If you generate videos with View, you see the View over there. So that is the AI is claiming ownership of that generated item. Second thing is the ownership can depend on the country's laws. And the third thing will be how the content was generated. So the ownership will depend on these three things. So these three things come together to determine the ownership of the AI content. So what we should know is that AI models are trained on images, text, videos, and artworks. And we know some of these may be copyrighted. You get it? And sometimes AI can generate something that is very similar to an existing work, or it will mimic a specific artist style. So here are some risks we can get: copyright infringements, legal issues, and ethical concerns about originality. So to benefit from it or to work around this, we can avoid prompts, or these are some best practices that we can do. So an example is we should use AI as a starting point, not the final output. As the AI will guide you or help you to brainstorm. Then you, the human, will add your own judgments, your own ideas, your own edits and creativity. So that at the end of the day, what you are creating or working on would be fully used. The next thing to also look at is plagiarism concerns. So when we talk about plagiarism simply means presenting someone else's work as your own without acknowledgement. So quite remember back during undergraduate studies, we were always asked or we were always asked to reference our work if we copied or we took some information from other sources. So this was to help address the concerns of plagiarism. Let's look at how AI connects to plagiarism. So what we should know is that AI generates the content for you based on your prompts, and that does not automatically make it yours. So one key thing we should know is that submitting raw AI output can be considered dishonest. So here are some common mistakes that we all make. We copy AI answers directly into assignments. We don't edit or understand the content. And then we assume that the work that we got from AI is the original work. This is an issue because it doesn't help us to learn. For academics, it helps us to risk getting academic penalties. That is, our work can be cancelled or we'll be asked to redo the entire work again. And then we can also lose credibility. Okay, then, so how do we use AI responsibly in school or work? What you should know is that we should always edit the output that we get from the AI. That is, we rewrite them in our own words. So you can revisit the ChatGPT for content creation course. There is actually a lesson on editing AI generated content. So that can help you to gain a fair idea on how to do this. The second thing is to personalize. That is, you add your own ideas. Then the third thing is to verify. You check for the facts and accuracy. So in the module 2 of the generative AI course, we looked at using AI for research and work. And during one of our practices, we asked Claude, I think Claude here, to help us get a research topic for our thesis. And it should also add references that can help us get information. So we remember that we by clicking on the links that provided in the output that we get, it sent us to the site so that we can verify the output that we got from AI. So that's a very responsible way of using AI for school or work. Should know that or this is a very better approach that we all can adopt. We should use AI for brainstorming ideas, structuring concepts, and clarifying concepts. We should not use AI to replace our thinking. I'm stressing on that. We should not use AI to replace our thinking, as this would help us to lose our originality. The last thing to look at in this lesson is privacy and data protection. This one key rule: never share sensitive or private information with AI tools. This matters because your input may be stored, it may be used to improve the system, and it may not be completely private. So we talked about how these AI are trained. And sometimes they train them based on the outputs that we get. And you can even ask any of the AI tools that you've been using frequently to describe you, and based on your prompt, it can describe you perfectly. So that means if you give it any sensitive information, to store in the system, which isn't the right thing to do. So never input your passwords, your bank details, your personal identification numbers, private messages, company or workplace data. These are real risks because they can cause data leaks, identity theft, and confidential information exposure. So here are some safe usage tips that we can adopt. The first is to use generic examples instead of real data. Remove personal identifiers and be cautious when using AI for work related tasks. You can put this at the back of your mind that if it is something that you wouldn't post publicly, then don't put it in the AI. So In this lesson, we've seen that AI is very powerful but not inherently ethical. Bias can affect the fairness and decision making. Ownership of AI content is very complex. Blindly using AI can lead to plagiarism, and protecting personal data is critical. So we should know that using AI responsibly is not just a skill, but it is about judgment. And that brings us to the end of this lesson. Thank you and see you in the next one.